Anyways, okay, good. Recording in progress. Got it. All right. Scott Torrance, congratulations. You survived theater school.
Yes, thank you. By the grace of God, I did.
By the grace of God. Now, wait, did you guys graduate the same year, right? Because you were in, Scott was in the class right below mine, and then
I'm not sure.
What year did you graduate?
98.
Yeah, we were in the same, but listen, I was so far gone that I just couldn't even, because I took a year off, that I don't remember, literally, I remember nothing. So, yeah, we were in the same class.
Same. Okay, awesome. Because I was trying to rack my brain. I was like, I remember you. I remember you being a year ahead of me, both of you. And then, you know what? To be honest, I was just going to blame it on a whole lot of ecstasy that I did for 4 years. And I've blown out a lot of brain cells, and there's a lot of things to remember and a lot of things that I don't.
Let's get into it, because honestly, that I think, I mean, I remember that is what you were going through or getting into, or whatever you want to call it. You were the first person I knew who was like really into rave culture, which I thought was so cool and dangerous and adventurous and exciting. Was that something you were involved in before you came to theater school?
A little bit. I am from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I was this little gay boy raised by my mom and my aunt, and I knew from the time I knew once I knew what a big city was, I belonged in it. You know, I knew that I never belonged here. And so I just started acting when my aunt Coco, my crazy aunt Coco, was an actress around town in community theater, and she took me to see Peter Pan when I was 6, and I fell in love with it because they flew. And 3 years later, the same theater company held auditions, and I was like, I want to play Michael because I want to fly. And I practiced and practiced. My aunt helped me, and she taught me what upstage was and downstage was. And I went in and I auditioned for it and got called back, and I got that part. And the bug bit, and from that point on, laser focused. And one of the things that I have that's a blessing and a curse, I think, is I have the ability to get laser focused on something and not stop until I get it, but I usually get laser focused on the wrong things, be it the rave culture and the club kid thing. I mean, it was fun, but I should have probably been focused a little bit more on class, to be honest.
Well, I have a question. I think that for me, I don't think there's, I mean, look, I'm not going to say your experience wasn't valid because it sounds like it, but at least you had fun, right? While the rest of us were like, I mean, like, tell us what that was like. How did you get into that culture? Because I remember being like, oh my God, these kids are so cool and they're having a fucking blast. Was it fun, first of all?
It was so much fun. It was too much fun. You know, and coming into the theater school, I knew I was going to be surrounded by people that were better than me. You know, we were all kind of like, I felt like the best of where we came from, you know, so I was prepared to not be the golden child. But what was interesting was I was very curious, and I was, you know, dropped into Chicago from Tulsa, Oklahoma. And so I had no fear when I was 18. I mean, I feared the professors, but not Chicago nightlife. And so I went to Crowbar one night by myself. I took a cab.
I used to go there. That's
yes, I waited in line, freezing my ass off for like an hour. And then I saw these magical people like just walk through with these huge platform shoes and this crazy makeup. And I was like, oh my God, I want to be them. And finally got in and like fought my way to the back of the club where all of these fantastic people were. And I had the nerve to just ask one of them, I'm like, where'd you get those shoes? And they're like, oh, I had them made. I was like, where? Like a cobbler or some like repair. So I got my dad's combat boots that he gave me because he really wanted me to be a tough guy. And I said, oh, I'll keep these boots. And I took them in, and I got 6 inches of like platform attached, dressed up in these like striped overalls. And I had this like matching hat, and I wore those shoes, and I walked up to the club the next time, and they were like, right this way. You don't have to pay. Like,
Oh,
they ushered
yes.
me in, and from that point on, I felt like I felt famous.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It never occurred to me until just now that raves are theater.
Yes.
I don't know why that didn't occur to me until you just said it. You made your entrance and with your correct costume on, and then you got the part.
Yeah.
Right.
And you
Totally.
were also famous. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the other thing that I've learned from talking to people like you and another guest, Ed, we had on, kind of talked about this, that like that and watching documentaries, that the club kid thing was a mix of like fashion show meets theater meets like Caligula, like what debauchery, but it's a theater. It was like theater of, it meets a fashion show. It was fantastic.
I agree, and I also on the touching on the famous part, feeling famous, not having to pay $20 at the time, which was pretty hardcore. I thought, to get into anywhere. I was like hobnobbing with like Dennis Rodman in the VIP
Oh,
lounge.
yes,
At the time,
right.
I thought he was totally hot. Now he's not anymore. Billy Corgan. I mean, I was hanging with these like stars, so I felt famous. I remember talking to Billy Corgan. I was as tall as he was because it was 6 inches on this 5'7" body. We were face to face, and he's like, "Where'd you get those shoes? They're pretty cool." And I'm like, "Oh my god, I love you so much!" Like it was magical. But I was also like, I was so wrapped up that it got me into some like kind of like bad situations. And
Do you mean like dangerous situations?
yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. So do you guys remember the 7-minute rule? Like, if you were late 7 minutes, the door would close, and then if the door closed, you couldn't
Oh,
get in.
yeah,
And if
Yeah.
you missed 3 times, you were completely kicked out of school. It didn't matter if it was like last semester, senior year, 3 times you're out. And from what I remember, our credits wouldn't transfer. So they put the fear of God in us to like make it on time, which I agree with. Like, I think, time is money. I've never really had a problem with being prompt, but there was one night that, okay, so I had Bill Burnett for voice and speech. I think it was our second year,
Yes.
and I just could not with him. I would just
Me too. I got in a fight with him in class where I stormed out because he's told me I was a chicken necking, and that I did this too much, and then I looked like a chicken, and I couldn't take it and I just stormed out. That motherfucker. I never liked him.
well, he just put me to sleep. And granted, I probably wasn't on any sleep, going into that class, but I risked it for that biscuit, and I just skipped twice. I was like, I can't, but I won't miss the third time. Now this is kind of a dark story, but I went to so Tuesdays and Wednesdays in Chicago were like the nights that like weren't epic, and back then, and I remember just going to this gay bar in Boys Town, just to have some drinks, and I remember all of a sudden waking up in the emergency room with restraints on my arms and legs and a catheter. And I was like, I had no idea how I got there.
Oh
I
my
was like,
god.
"Holy shit, like what happened?" And finally the doctors came in and said, you were fighting us. We were trying to help. And I don't remember. I'm total blackout. And you guys, I've never laid a finger on anyone in my life. But they said it was a possible GHB overdose or roofie overdose. So someone bought me a drink. The one night that I just went out to just have like a couple drinks, not like eat a bunch of ecstasy and like, dance till dawn. Anyway, that morning, if I hadn't gotten out of that and gotten to Bill Burnett's class, I would have been kicked out. So after they removed the catheter, sorry, this is Jolene. It was very, very painful. They took the restraints off. I was like, I have to get to Bill's class or I'm gonna get kicked out. And I yanked my IV out of my arm. I like dressed as fast as I could. I ran because I feel like it was really close to the theater school, that ER. I ran to his class and I got in there in time. And I
Oh
never
my
told
God.
anyone about it. I was mortified, but I was like, I can't miss this class. Like I can't, or I'll be kicked out. So yeah,
But Scott, does that mean you don't know what happened to you that night?
I don't. I don't think because the guy that I went with supposedly like just like dropped me off. But anyway, I don't believe that anything happened to me. I think that I was trying to fight maybe because I was like in a blackout, but I felt like people were like trying to undo my clothing. But it was probably like the nurses and the doctors and stuff, you know? And,
Right. Oh
and
my God.
it was nuts. And I think about it now and I'm like, oh my God, that really was fucked up. But you know what? I made it to Bill's class and I did great.
Oh my God. How old were you? 8? Was that our second year? So 19, 20?
19, 20, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, I'm really sorry that happened to you. I'm really glad that nothing terrible happened to you. But I want to jump just back to the thing that you said in the beginning about feeling famous, because that is I wouldn't have occurred to me until you said it, but that is my impression of you. Like that you, not in a jerky way, but that you seemed very self-possessed to me. Well, and for sure you had a life outside of school, which many of us didn't. So that was sort of like intriguing. But overall, it does seem like you have a lot of grit as a person. Would you say that's true?
I definitely did back then. I had no fear. Well, I had all the fear in the theater school, but yeah, there was. I don't know. I think it's that like invincibility thing when you're younger. The older you get, the more. Or for me, the older I get, the more I cherish. I think about what I have. Like I don't ride rides on roller coasters anymore. Like the last time, I mean, I went to Hawaii a few years ago with my family and my mom. Like I kept being told, like, take the helicopter tour. It's magical. It is a religious experience. And I was like so looking forward to it. Well, my mom booked, for whatever reason, booked the helicopter with the doors off. You guys, it was like an hour-long panic attack. Like my nails dug into my mom's, like, I was like, make it stop. This is horrible. And then when it was over, I was like, when did I become a wimp? Like when did I? But I think it comes with age, right?
It totally does. I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. Oh, it was about skiing. I was talking about skiing, and I'm saying like, I just can't unring this bell of knowing people die from skiing, like from kind of a minor sort of, you make one false move and you're just dead, and just seems like not a way to, it's not worth it in terms of a way to go. If you're going to take take a risk, it should be like really, really worth it. But so is it right to say that the thing you sort of regret or feel badly about with the partying in school is that you might have almost gotten kicked out, or was there more to it than that?
I don't think I regret it. I mean, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but like I had to be somewhat talented to like roll into like Shakespeare class, no pun intended, roll into Shakespeare class and do some Shakespearean sonnet after coming straight from after hours, like on no sleep. Like, I don't know how I did it. But somehow I did it. And I also came out, alive, thank God. I had a girl in my class that something really horrible happened to. And I don't know if we can bleep names. You guys remember?
Yeah, we can bleep names.
You guys remember who I'm talking about?
Anastasia, yeah.
So that could have happened to me. You know what I mean? Like I put myself, not to say that she did anything wrong at all, but that could have happened to me, and
yeah, but for the grace of God.
There before the grace of God, absolutely.
Did you were there a bunch of kids in our school that you went with? I remember some, but like did you have two totally separate groups of friends?
So starting out, I remember listening to Noelle's podcast with you guys, and I heard her say, I was sitting around at a friend's place, and they're like, let's go to a club. I think she was talking about me because Noelle was hot and is beautiful. She's gorgeous. And I was like, well, that'll help me get into this club, and we're friends, and so she was like happy, like hanging out in the VIP room, whereas ecstasy did something to my body. It made me dance all night long without stopping, and so I started dropping all this baby weight. And so there was another part of it, which was body image. I was this chunky monkey my whole life, and then I just started dropping weight like crazy because I was dancing literally all night long.
Yeah, you literally were doing cardio for 12 hours at a
12
time,
hours.
right? Yeah.
12 hours. Yes, totally. Like I could wring my jeans out, my big old raver jeans that I got in a lot of trouble at the theater school for wearing because they said that, we can't see your full movement. I could wring those out with, I mean, it was like hot yoga for 12 hours, but like, or Zumba.
Why and when and how did the party end?
So, not till later on, not till after. So, okay. So I never felt like the golden child at the theater school. I don't know if any of us did, although listening to these podcasts, like some of the people that I thought were golden, they didn't, we all have this similar experience where it's like, oh, you were scared too? Oh, wow. I had no idea you guys were scared. I thought everybody loved you. The only real feedback like that I had that was positive from any teachers were John Jenkins and Jane Alderman. And I know that's not, I haven't heard a lot of that on this podcast, but and I almost had kind of like imposter syndrome in her class because I was like, well, she hasn't seen my work all 4 years. So like in our class, I thought was kind of competitive, like pretty competitive. But
Agreed. It was very weird. Very weird.
Yeah, especially the girls. Like I didn't get, like I didn't get a lot of, I didn't feel the same heat from the guys as I did from some of the girls. But anyway, so I had a really amazing, it's weird. Like I had the most amazing showcase experience ever. I think I was blown away. I couldn't believe it.
Oh my gosh, this is a great story because I'm obsessed with showcase stories and they've all been horrific pretty
Right.
much. So can you tell us your experience? I'm so excited.
I would love to. Okay, so I was like freaking out about a monologue, didn't know what to do. But Jane, Jane was she was just kind. She didn't favor me. I didn't feel like she was just kind. And she's like, just ask Zach Helm to write you a monologue. So I reached out to Zach, who we weren't really friends. I mean, I knew who he was, but I got his number. I called him and he said, okay, I want you to make me a mixtape and send it to me. And I'm like, okay. He's like, don't think about it. Just make me a mixtape, send it to me. And so I did. And he wrote me this monologue. And it wasn't, I think this is important for actors that are about to graduate. It wasn't a character. I wasn't playing anybody else. It was me ranting on stage. I walked out and I just was going off about what really pisses me off in the world. And so I lucked out with that. Chicago Showcase, it was one of those I walked off stage and I was like, I have no idea what that was. That was an out-of-body experience. I don't know if that went well. Then we go to LA and it was like all the stars aligned, you guys. Like I cannot even tell you. I got out there, I like started and this laughter started happening and I was like, okay, I've got these people in my pocket. So I just go on and rant and rave and I got a fucking standing ovation.
Shut up.
I'm not kidding you. I could not believe it. I was like, is this real? This can't be real. Like, did I imagine that? And then I remember afterwards.
Oh my God, this is the greatest thing I've ever heard.
It was one of the best moments of my entire life. Rick Murphy walks up to me and he's like, well, someone did well this evening. And I was like, oh my God. And then Jane called me into her hotel room And she sat me down. She goes, okay, look, listen, I want you to know that you have more interest than Judy, Leonard, or Mike Mooney combined. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? She's like, no. So I need you to go home and get some, or go to your hotel room, go night, because you are booked like this entire time. So I don't know what everybody else did, but I took meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting. Then one of the
Wait, I gotta interrupt. Can I interrupt you? Because I just have a question. What was that? Were you like, my whole life is about to change? Like, I'm now a star? Because I would be like, hey, Mom, I'm never coming home. Like, I'm now fucking a star.
I couldn't believe it. I honestly felt like I was dreaming the whole time. I was like, oh, just my dreams are coming true. And of all people, me, like, because I just felt really not, I don't know. I felt like I was never really liked by most teachers, and I don't think they knew what to do with me casting wise. I couldn't picture me in a lot of things. Like, I couldn't see a clear picture of where I belonged in the business.
It's so interesting. I think you hit LA and LA hit you at a time where you said the stars aligned, but they were looking for something, and that something was you. Like, that is the clear thing of like perfect match and perfect time for that. Anyway, I'm so intrigued. Keep going.
No, I agree with you. So then so I think we were there for 2 days, maybe. I didn't see anybody because it was one meeting after the other. And then I was told I needed to stay a day later because there was this audition for this movie called Rave. And I was like, okay. So everybody else flew back to Chicago and I had to stay in the hotel room by myself. And I got the sides to the script. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to audition for a movie in Hollywood tomorrow. And by the way, all the meetings that I took, they were like, go back to Chicago, get your SAG card, and then move out here. That was like basically what everyone said. Go back to Chicago, get your SAG card, move back here. So I go to this audition by myself. First of all, it's hard as fuck to find a cab in LA. Coming from Chicago, I was like, how the hell am I gonna even get there? But I figured it out. I auditioned for it. I didn't really know how I did. Flew back to Chicago. And then I found out that I booked it. And I was like, what?
Are you fucking kidding? No, first, what?
It's totally true. And I wasn't SAG. And so they did something called a Taft-Hartley, which I don't know. I think that I should probably look that up, but it's like waves a magic wand and now you're magic SAG. So I graduated and then 2 weeks later flew to Los Angeles. I moved in with so Zach Helm, Kate McKiernan, Kat Phillips, Ellen Mills, Jeff Buelterman were all living in this huge house in Koreatown. And they're like, we would love to have you as a roommate. And I'm like, that's great because I have no idea where the hell I'm going or what I'm doing. I flew in, $5 to my name. Oh, and Saffron, don't let me forget, Saffron also lived at that house. Went to sleep, woke up, and I think it was Kate or Zach that drove me to set the first day because I didn't know directions. I didn't have a car. And I started shooting this movie and it was just totally unbelievable.
Okay, I have to just say, this whole thing is unbelievable, but like, can I ask you, like, when you're sitting in these meetings, because you were like, what, how old were you?
I was 21.
So you're sitting in these meetings with people. Were you able to, like, do you think, here's what I'm making up, okay, and I could be wrong, like, all your stuff with, like, the club scene where you have to pretend and dress up and like you're already famous kind of. Do you think that helped prepare you for these meetings in terms of feeling like you deserved to be there?
I don't know if no, but you know what it did teach me? Like hanging out with all those club kids. When I got the sides to that movie, I was like, I know this guy. I partied with this guy. It just felt like I could totally do this. And there weren't a lot of parts. I did Balm and Gilead with John Jenkins, my second year as an intro, where I got to wear my stacks in that thing. And I got to be this like over the top flaming like hooker boy. Not to say that, but I had something to base that off of, you know what I mean? So that was really fun. Rave kind of just like fell right. I mean, it was, again, it was luck. It was like winning the lottery, stars aligned. I partied with this character before, so I know how to play him. And but but they a lot of, so the agency that I liked the most, they still wouldn't sign me. They were like, this doesn't happen. So, but we still like you, so we're gonna hip pocket you and we're gonna send you out on auditions. And I was like, okay. And they're like, and get ready to not work. And I was like, okay. And I didn't feel entitled. I mean, I felt like I was just lucky, like right place, right time, stars aligned. And they started sending me out on auditions. And then I remember going to an audition that they said, you know what, go, you just need to go meet this casting director because she just won an award for Boogie Nights. And I was like, cool, okay. And I went in and Sean Gunn was in the room and his brother was in the room. And it was like a two-liner for this movie called The Specials, and Judy was in it. and Sean was in it. And so I walk in and I do the two lines. They're like, did you go to Goodman? And I said, yes, I sure did. And they're like, thanks. And then I get a phone call from agent, you booked it, come in and sign the papers, like you're signed, let's do this. And I was like, yes. So that paid off because connections, right? Like knowing people, right? Like the theater school was a connection for me in that room. Little did I know then what the Gunn brothers would be now, like amazing, right? But
So
yeah.
so you hit the ground clearly running, like clearly. So you just, could we never talk to anybody that literally has had this experience where your showcase went so well that you basically just stayed, you moved to LA and you had an agent and everything. Um but I want to say, how was it shooting the Rave movie, just not knowing how to make movies? Like,
Um,
how did you do that?
well, I learned very quickly that the camera's right in your face. So I got, I first day, they were like, tone it way down, dude. Like, camera's right here. Don't act for the back of the house. And I also was getting cues from my fellow actors. I think the first scene, we were all like laying in bed after like this rave goes terribly wrong. And one of our friends ODs, and we're talking about like, is she going to be okay? And I'm like, she'll be fine. And they're like, no, like, listen. And the other two actors were like whispering and we were whispering in bed. I was like, oh, right. Yeah. The camera's like right here. Okay. I got clocked by a couple directors for just being too big. I did an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I was this kid that blows himself up with a bomb, and he's half zombie, half burn victim, and comes back to wreak havoc on the high school. And with all this makeup, it took like 4 hours to get into this makeup, and I would practice in my trailer, and I'm like, and I did these nervous ticks and stuff for this. I mean, I got called in like 5 times for this part, which was just like one episode. But it was this nerdy guy with these ticks. So I was like, you can't really see what I'm doing in this makeup. Again, I was just told, bring it down. Like, stop being so extra. Like the camera will see you. And I'm like, got it. Okay, gotcha. But yeah.
Well, Scott, at the risk of sounding like a terrible television movie, and then what happened? Because you had all this. What happened?
Yeah. So the thing is, I got really close to a lot of pilots. I would go and test for network, and it would always be between me and one other person. And every single time it didn't work out, I would cry. Like I would be devastated. And then I would go to work with like this swollen red face. Like I get red and splotchy anyway. I would get red and splotchy walking into auditions. That was before I knew anything about beta blockers. But hey guys, if you're out there auditioning and you turn red as a beet, if you feel any sort of anything, beta blockers can be a big help. But I was tired of crying. I was tired of having my heart broken. I mean, and I feel like Larry Bates said on this podcast, confidence is everything. And I cannot agree more. When I would book a job, then I would be confident, and that would lead to 3 more jobs. And then I wouldn't work for a year or more, you know? And then I would get so close. And every single time, nope, nope. And I'm a sensitive guy. Like, I think I was like born with like an extra like dose of emotions. And I was just tired of crying and having my heart broken. And I had my laser focus on being a movie star from the time I was 6 years old, honestly. And there was no plan B. It's so funny. When my mom dropped me off at DePaul, she was like, you could go to beauty school and like learn how to do that so you can cut hair in the dorms to make money. I'm like, there's no plan B. Like, I'm going to be a movie star. That's all there is to it. Well, guess what I do now? I own my own hair salon. And so she, but it all worked out the way it was supposed to. But basically I stopped because I was like, is there anything else in this world that will make me happy? Because I am miserable right now. I'm tired of crying every day. You're selling yourself. And they're telling you, there's only so much rejection that I could take at that time. So
were you still, did you feel like you had a community out here in LA or no? Like, and also did the raving continue in LA? That's my question.
The other part of that. Yeah. So I was also suffering from like, I don't know if this was stage fright or a mixture of stage fright and drugs, but anytime I would get, like I would go out for something that I got really excited for. I remember they were casting this gay character on Dawson's Creek, and I was like, oh my God. I couldn't remember the lines, you guys. And it wasn't, pages and pages, but I was psyching myself out. I did better at auditions on things that I didn't know really a whole lot about. But yeah, I think it was a mixture of partying and also just kind of like being fed up, and I couldn't remember the lines. And there's nothing more humiliating than, that's like the bait, you guys know when they're like, I can't remember those lines. And like,
I have the same thing. And so I was diagnosed. It's like my therapist literally thinks that what happens is that it's obviously anxiety, but it's also, there is some kind of fear of shame that happens that becomes so large. Shame of not remembering, shame of not doing well enough. This is for me. I don't know if this resonates with you, but like, and she was like, it is, and then the brain literally shuts down and goes into, I will protect you at all costs, which means all of my resources have to go into like basically keeping you in your body. And who gives a shit about copy written by some dude in a room? Like, you now are in survival mode. So it's panic. It's panic, and it's fear of humiliation, and it's real, and it has really debilitated me as an actor, and I'm still working through it.
Yeah. No, well, can I just tell you both? I'm so obsessed with you both. Like, did you both become therapists at some point? Because I've so wanted to. I'm a huge fan of therapy. Huge. And endorse it, love it, will go for the rest of my life. And there's a part of me that wishes, gosh, if it weren't so much school and if I wasn't 46, like I would love, because it's fascinating to me. And I think you're absolutely right, Jen. I think that, it was like, I remember, okay, there's really, really bad show on MTV. It was called Undressed, and it was this really bad soap opera. And it was really bad acting. But then when I got on set, I was like, oh, it's really bad acting because they're giving everybody line readings. Like, they're telling you, say it just like this, da, 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 da. And I forgot my lines. I kept forgetting my lines. They were getting so frustrated with me. And I was like, I didn't know that. I could never ask questions. Like, I was always scared to ask for what I wanted. Like, I just was like, I don't know. Oh, sorry, I'm bouncing all over the place, but Kristen Goodman said something so amazing in her podcast about how the whole MFAs, they looked at it as like, I'm paying you to learn. That blew my mind. Like, if I went in with that, just with a notion of that, like, oh my God, to this, I mean, I love her so much, but I wish that I had thought that a little bit more. And I mean, that's not the case when you're working on set, but you know, in Hollywood, they're paying you to do a job, but like we paid those professors to teach us. And I feel like some of the things that, I don't know, their behavior, I think sometimes it wouldn't fly today. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, no, and it wouldn't.
Mm-mm.
So you probably know Boz and I are kind of big into this idea that like when success doesn't happen to people or doesn't happen in the timeline that they want, or whatever, it's often for the best, because, you know, like I've said to her, if she hadn't made all of these terrible choices, basically turning down opportunities that were coming her way left and right, she might have found herself successful and not able to handle and kind of blow it up. And like, you know, I mean, I'm using your words, Boz, you use that, like I probably would have ended up dead.
Oh, I would have been dead.
Totally.
Yeah. So Scott, do you think that that's kind of, there was some, okay. Yeah, that's what I thought.
I would have pulled a Lindsay Lohan. I would have ended up in a dumpster. Yeah. No, I mean,
yeah.
So I truly believe that, like, I'm so happy that I did it. You know, I think you only regret the things you don't try, the things you don't do. But then there's also this part of me, I'm not gonna lie, that you know, the love never goes away. That I don't want to say it's an empty hole. That, you know, I mean, I do hair now. It's very creative. I own my own salon. It's just me and my clients, and you know, I think everybody puts on their work face or, you know, whatever, but it's nice to be able to be adaptable and entertain while you're doing, you know, whatever. But you guys have been such an inspiration. This podcast has been such an inspiration for me because you guys got my creative juices flowing. That part that that hasn't been full in 24 years, you know, like I want to do a podcast. You guys.
Yes. Do it.
Also, we're doing a documentary. We're planning to do a documentary on the theater school times, and you will be in that documentary. So.
Brilliant. Oh,
yeah.
love it. I love
road trip to Tulsa. You're in Tulsa, right?
Yep, buckle on the Bible belt. Tulsa.
Okay, now, yeah, that's what I was going to ask you about. Like, what's it like to live in Oklahoma God. When you're not the most traditional person?
Right. So I mean, if you told me, you know, you're going to move back to Tulsa one day and you're going to find your husband and you're going to be content, I would have been like, you're smoking crack. Like, there's no way in hell. You couldn't pay me enough money. What person, what any sort of minority, why would you choose to live in this horrible red state, right? But you know, I really lucked out. There's good people and bad people wherever you go. And the pandemic, I actually had a silver lining with the pandemic. I was working at a competitive salon, kind of like the theater school. I don't know why I'm drawn to those kinds of things, but pandemic happened, and I have my mom is a heart patient. She had triple bypass at 42, so she's immune compromised. My husband is immune compromised. And then there's me that just tends to catch every cold that's out there. And I was trying to rack my brain during lockdown, like, how do I do my job 6 feet away from someone? Like, I have to touch you. Like, I have to cut your bangs. I'm basically in your mouth when I'm cutting your bangs. Like, how am I going to do this? And I took this pandemic very seriously because I have so many loved ones that it wouldn't be good if they got it. So I just decided to take a chance and open my own salon where it's basically COVID free, and people have to be like fully vaccinated and show me their card. And I have air purifiers, we wear masks. It's just a single room with me and my client, one at a time. And what's so wild is I thought I was going to shoot myself in the foot when I said you have to be vaccinated or else I can't take you. But there are all these unicorns all over Tulsa, Oklahoma that come to me. And honestly, business is booming. It's never been better. And it's wonderful because it's just me, and it's very private. we don't have to worry about, we can talk politics as loud as we want because there's nobody sitting next to us, like, you know, looking us up and down or telling us we're wrong. Or so there are good people here, and they're all my clients.
And by establishing those boundaries, you created the Unicorn Club where everybody is drawn to you because you've established from the outset like what your thing is, and that makes people understand what is and isn't tolerated by you, and then that draws all the right people to you.
And I will tell you, I don't think I'll ever work for anyone ever again. Like, I don't think I'll ever have a boss ever again. I mean, I'll work with someone, at least in the hair world, but oh my God, being your own boss, you guys, is the best. I highly recommend it. Like, it's amazing.
So Scott, how did you end up? So what was the transition like leaving?
Okay.
Like, did you go out in like me in a fiery blaze of driving drunk into a swimming pool, or like did you?
No. Again, like, I am very lucky that I moved to New York. So when I quit, so I decided, I was like, okay, I'm done with acting for a while. I'm going to take some time off. And then I was like, well, why am I living in Hollywood? I've always wanted to live in New York. So I moved to New York, partied and worked retail for 4 years. Was kind of tired of being like a broke college student. And I'm like, well, let's go back to LA where at least it's a little bit easier and the weather's nice. And I went back to LA. This whole time, by the way, never stopped partying, right? And I got to the point where I was like, I don't think that I can be here. It's too triggering for me to go out and dance. And it had graduated from ecstasy to speed. And I was a functioning addict, but I was like, the only way I'm going to be able to not get fired from work. And I really just wanted like 2 months to sleep to catch up. So I went to rehab, which was one of the best things I ever did. And I learned that I am a drug addict, but I'm not an alcoholic, because like drinking was like never my thing. It's still really kind of not my thing. Through lockdown, I will say, I mean, I was guilty of maybe pouring a martini at like 10 a.m. because I felt like we were all living in Vegas and nobody had any idea what day or time it was. But yeah, no. So I can socially drink, and that's fine. But I just was like, I'm gonna die if I stay here. And my mom got divorced from my stepdad, and I wanted to come back to Tulsa to check on her. I was like 3 months. That's it. And then it was weird. Like growing up here, there was nothing happening. And coming back here, I think I changed, but also Tulsa changed a little bit for the better. So like the best nightclubs, like the best shopping, no, not here. But that's not the most important to me. And like the traffic's not bad here. The cost of living is real cute here. And I met my husband here on Grindr, by the way, Gina. On Grindr.
I love that. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys, what would it take? I'm just thinking about your experience there. Like, they built you all the way up the first day you got to LA. You couldn't go any higher than that. You got to stay an extra day. You got to your meeting after meeting. Well, people like me and Boz are like going to the beach and whatever, and wasting our time in LA because we weren't getting any meetings. So everybody loved you. You got a standing ovation. You got Rick Murphy to say you did great. And then it was a process after, some successes of getting jobs. Then it was a process of like tearing you down. If there could have been a way for you to tolerate or survive the rejection, you might have stayed and had like a sane career. I think that's the problem, is like, there's no sane career. It seems like in Hollywood, you like either go balls to the wall and burn, crash and burn. Right? Like, so what would it take to have an environment that was even just 10% more psychologically minded? I mean, I'm interested, Boz, to what you have to say about that.
Well, I think it would take, it's so interesting. It's such a business, for me anyway, that thrives on youth, right? And when we're young, our brains aren't fully formed. So you've got weird ass people running around doing weird ass shit, and their brains aren't formed. So I think it would have to, for me, it would literally have to take us embracing the knowledge and wherewithal of people as they get older, and not so much capitalizing on youth, because youth don't know shit, and we can't know anything. So when you're a youth-centric industry, it's a mess. So what what I would say is like what it's going to take is people to say, oh wait, people of all ages, of all races, of all can have careers. And I think then it becomes less of a like, I have to capitalize on what is hot right now because later is not going to be so hot. It would take a holistic view of like the human experience. And there's so much money involved, I'm not sure. And I think coming back at 46 and doing this, and I'm not really trying to be an actor, but as a writer, I'm seeing that like you kind of have to go away from like 25 to 40 and come back to LA if you're going to do it.
Dude, that I just had this image like it's LA's kind of run like porn. Like it's all about like what's going to get you off like in 5 seconds instead of anything beyond what's going to happen in 5 seconds. And there's like a short-term memory problem. Because that thing you described, by the way, about being the thing of the moment, whatever. Sean said the same thing. Sean said, I think that I was able to do what I was able to do because I just had a particular look at a particular time when they were just looking for my look, and that's important to say again to people out there, like, if you don't succeed, you can't necessarily say it's because of your talent. It really could be like, it's just not your moment. Hollywood is not having the you moment right now. It might have had it 10 years ago. It might have it in 10 years. It's just not right now.
Amen to that. I fully agree with you on that. And what I love now is that, everyone's writing. It's like, I remember my agency said, you're just not like anybody else. So we're just going to send you out on everything. And that's cool. But like, I would get sent out for like football players. And I was like, I don't seem, I'll go because you're telling me to, and I was too scared to say, I really don't see myself doing this. But yeah, I love now how, and back in the day, like, I feel like the only thing like gay characters, not that I wanted to always play gay characters, but I have this voice. Okay. I came out, you can look at pictures of me when I'm 3 years old. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to know, that I am a gay man. And so I love now that people are of all, I don't know, ethnicities are like Will and Grace was the only thing that I saw, you know what I mean? So I love that now there's so much representation. I think that's wonderful. And I love that. And I almost feel like if you want it, write it yourself, like what you guys are doing kind of, right?
Yeah. I would venture to say that, Scott, I don't think you're done with acting yet. I have this really strong sense that you're gonna, is there any work in Oklahoma, like film and TV wise?
So people ask me all the time when they find out that I have this other life, other career, why don't you do it anymore? And I'm like, I feel like theater wise, the theater school sort of ruined me as far as like watching community theater, because I cannot turn off that I can't turn off that critical, that we got taught for 4 years. Well, I didn't see the weather. I didn't see, where they were coming from. Like my aunt is still, she directs Christmas Carol every year here in Tulsa. And she asked me to come to Final Dress, and she was interested in my notes. And I was like, okay. And after the first act ended, I opened up my big scroll, and she's like, okay. And I'm like, okay. So first of all, British accents, like, let's just get rid of them, because half the people sound like they are challenged. And she's like, you know what? I don't want to hear anymore. I don't want to hear anymore. I'm like, and they're doing it. They're not professionals. I did it up until I went to DePaul. They're doing it because they love it. They're doing it because it's fun. But that critical note-taking eye is hard for me to shed that I learned.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about film and TV?
They're supposedly, yes. Supposedly, I mean, they filmed a movie here with Leonardo DiCaprio. It's a Martin Scorsese movie. I'm going blank on the name. It's about
Don't Look Up. Oh no, that wasn't Martin Scorsese.
No.
Did it already come out?
No, not yet. No, it's about Native American. I can't remember. I'm going blank right now. But yeah, things do happen here. Here and there, and I keep being told by my aunt that there's like a new casting director that's coming to Tulsa, and Tulsa's going to be this new da 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 da. And I'm like, maybe. I love your podcast. I love you. You two have like just nailed it. I mean, I live for this thing. I would love to at least do not least. I would love to do a podcast. I would love to like salon confessional or therapy. Like people open up to me so much.
Oh, therapy is perfect.
That's amazing, and we can produce it on our this is we've had in mind for a long time that we would have other podcasts under this umbrella. Seriously, let's talk about it, because therapy, did you come up with that? That's amazing.
I did,
dude. We got to do it. We'll help you. We'll help you.
I need your help. You ladies are brilliant, and I would love that. That would be filling the hole that that's been.
Yeah, it's done. It's done. You're gonna do it. It's done. Yes. I think you'd be fantastic on a podcast. Yeah. Go ahead, Boz. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say also, like, until that happens, like, we could also have you. We have the "Let Me Run This By You" segment, with just us, so we could have you as our like third once in a while. Let us run, and you could talk about like the therapy on our podcast.
Like, so you can't see me right now, but I'm doing a literal toe touch right now. Okay. Like, just made my not really. In my mind, I'm doing a toe touch.
I'm like, shit. You better get on the pole. What's going on? But so we'll talk. But I mean, because this has been, I mean, like hearing how for me, I wanted to participate in this podcast so that people could know what it takes to survive a hard thing and know they could. That's like how I wanted the stories. That's how it started. And now what has become for me is leaving a legacy for people to see that there is not one way to be successful, that success is a very multi-layered thing, and that sometimes things happen for a reason and sometimes they don't, but yet here we are.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh man, you're going to be back on for sure. We're definitely going to, and hopefully next time we'll be able to see you.
I know. Yeah. I would love that.
And now we have each other's email, so let's keep in touch about that, because I think that would be really cool. And therapy, I mean, you're sold. The name is perfect. It's sold already.
That makes me so glad you guys think it's a good idea.
Yes.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. Like,
yes,
you really, it means a lot to us when people listen. Like, good.
There's a person that I used to work with who her son just graduated at Columbia, and I was telling her yesterday, I was like, I was listening to I can't remember her name, but she went to Columbia, and like, it was so interesting to hear her story, because I mean, I thought that like back, okay, I'm not trying to be shady, but I remember it being like, well, if you got cut from DePaul, you went to Columbia.
That's exactly right.
Right. And so hearing her story, I was like, wow, that place sounded dope. Like, that place sounded, I mean, and I don't know when she graduated. Maybe she's graduated, later on. But I told her that because her son just graduated, I'm like, this podcast would be great for him because he's in Chicago right now, and he's just like ushering and trying to make ends meet and hasn't really connected the dots yet. And I'm like, please listen to I Survived the Theater School, and you will too. And I know he'll love it.
Yay. Thank you for this, Scott. We have to wrap up now, but let's keep talking about your podcast.
Yeah.
All right, have a good one. Love you. Bye.
Bye.